Welcome back, everybody. This is video number 3 in my series in environmental data analytics with the focus in environmental justice. So what you see here is the data sheet we were working on in video 2, but you may notice that there's an additional column for zip code. So what I did was I took the site latitude and longitude information, searched for it in a Google search, and came up with the zip code associated with those particular measurements. So now that we have this information, the next thing we want to do is to prepare our pivot tables. And what we're going to do with our pivot tables is we're going to aggregate our data based on specific information. So in this particular case, we're going to do monthly evaluations of average NO2 levels, and then we're going to create a graph of what that looks like. All right, so with that said, I just put the zip code information in. Let me go ahead and save it again. You will want to make a habit of regularly saving your data, because if you don't, you're going to lose things. Take my word for that. All right, so we're going to highlight the columns that we have shortened our data set to. Then we're going to hit Insert, Pivot Table. We're going to create a pivot table on another spreadsheet within this document. Now, what I do here is I almost immediately will rename it Pivot 1, just so that I know, which data set's associated with which pivot table. I'll also put things in order. So I typically put my pivot table behind my data set. This is just, personal preference. Okay, so now with that information, what we want to look at is aggregated data. So we're going to aggregate our monthly data so that we can look at some monthly averages to see what trends there are for NO2 in Birmingham, Alabama. The way we're going to do that, we're going to take our date and we're going to move it to rows. That gives us the months of the year. Then we're going to take our daily AQI value, and we're going to move that to values, and what it gives us automatically is a sum, but we don't want the sum. What we want from here is the average. So we go to field settings, we go to average, and then we end up with a monthly average of AQI NO2 for the month. Now, the thing I do next is I format this cell. So we don't need 7 or 8 decimal places. I will format it to 2. So we right click, we click on Format Cells, we go to Number, and then we are going to select 2 decimal places. So now we have the data with which we're going to actually create a time series graph. All right, so the way we do that is, and there, again, just say this, there are a number of different ways you can do a lot of different things when it comes to data analytics. These are just my own personal preferences. What I typically will do is I will take the data from the pivot table. I'll copy it to another area of that spreadsheet as values only. And I'm left with this. Now you'll see that the formatting went back to the multiple decimal places. So let's just go ahead and clear that up now. Format our cells and 2 decimal places. And now we end up with the monthly average of NO2. So we'll just go ahead and put a title on top of this column. This is our month. And I'll just say 2024. And this is just average NO2 for column titles. Now we're ready to graph. I'm just going to do a little teeny tiny bit more formatting just to make it more legible. I surround everything with borders. I'll bold the column or the headers or column titles in this case. I'll bold my months so those show up the right way. It looks like we got a comma in September. Why is that there? That's interesting. Let me delete that and see if I can. September. Oh, never mind. Looks like there's something on my screen. Okay, so here I'll just put yearly average. I'll just go yearly AVG. All right, so now we have the data that we can use to create our bar chart, and that's what we're going to do in the next video. Thank you for joining.